Hello, ladies and gents. You're joining Chaos TV's live coverage of the Riot Turkey International Invitational Day number 2. It is quarterfinals territory, and we are going to be casting Dark Passage versus GameEksta. My name is Madness, I'm joined by Stress, and as you can see, we're already in the picks and bans for game number 1.
We are indeed, and of course we're on 4.4, so we're on the live patch. We are on Tournament Realm as well, so luckily that means there's no delay after the picks and bans. But as we said, current meta on the live patch, Morgana being the first ban out is interesting. Morgana, of course, has seen a lot of play recently, so it's not surprising to see her ban. But as a first ban, that's a pretty interesting priority there from Dark Passage, and then instantly Lulu following as their third ban. So all of them have come through, and that leaves Lucian available for first pick.
Yeah, insta-locked in there. So that's a pretty interesting one, as you say. Morgana is not a champion that we often see banned out. It is starting to see a lot more play, a lot more airtime now in the bot lane as a support. But I think yesterday we actually saw Morgana in the mid lane, if memory serves me correctly. Regardless, though, Blitzcrank is being hovered over right now from GE GameEksta, and I just realised that it wasn't Morgana yesterday. It was the duo game I think we played. We played with Morgana, so I completely got that mixed up.
I was gonna say I'm not sure what game you casted yesterday, but I don't remember casting. That's okay. Now there is something that is different here. That's a Blitzcrank, which typically Blitzcrank is great for solo queue, but in competitive has very limited success. Typically, what you do with a Blitzcrank is it's kind of a cheese tactic. You go Blitzcrank with an AD carry like Caitlyn into the middle lane, and you push as hard as possible because you essentially shove out the first wave with Caitlyn, then look to pressure both buffs from the jungler. And from there, the lane is short enough so that Caitlyn can harass the mid laner if they ever step forward to try and CS. Blitzcrank grabs them if they ever try and come in through the side. And from there, you get the first tower and then kind of look to rotate around the map. The problem with Blitzcrank is, once the laning phase is over, his utility is severely dampened. You get one hook and that is it. And if the hook misses, you have nothing else to offer.
Yeah, very, very little peel, barring just smacking someone in the air. Apart from that, there's not a great deal that Blitzcrank will offer, so they're going to have to make the most of this in the laning phase, and they're against Leona, who is considered a pretty hard counter to Blitzcrank, because if you grab Leona, it's like, hey, free stuns, thank you very much. Now I'm in melee range, and I can start to whittle down your AD carry, so not too sure about that pick. Obviously, they were very confident taking that one first against Lucian, so only time's going to tell here, Stress. And this is something that I said yesterday, that both of these teams are Turkish teams, and in the Turkish realm, in the Turkish servers right now, and their current meta, they're going to have certain champions that us in Europe don't see a great deal of, because that's just the way it works.
That is something that I think is kind of something to keep in mind. Also, Dark Passage, you have to consider the favorites going into this game. GameEksta, not quite as well known as Dark Passage. We've seen Dark Passage in tournaments for the best part of the last 5-6 months. And when you consider that if you know you're going into a game that maybe you're the underdogs, maybe this is the time to pull out something like a Blitzcrank Caitlyn, which is a little bit difficult to deal with for a mid laner.
Well, what I will say about Blitzcrank is, of course, we are assuming that's Blitzcrank support. I don't really see where else it would be played right now. But what I will say is, it's a heavy snowballing champion if you can land grabs. And this goes back to Season 2, Season 3, where we started to see Blitzcrank a tiny bit more, because if you did land the grabs on immobile AD carries, now Lucian obviously has his Relentless Pursuit where he can escape, but if you do start to get the ball rolling, you can quickly escalate out of control. So, as you say, it's that kind of high risk, high reward kind of bot lane right now with Caitlyn as well, especially, so definitely one to watch out for as we get into this game.
I also have a feeling here that Dark Passage are just kind of going to pick a standard comp, and they do lock it in, Zed being the middle laner here for Dark Passage. So yeah, I figured they'd do this kind of setup where they're just going to go standard and kind of call the rotations out from GE. I have a feeling that a lot of teams will know what happens with the Blitzcrank Caitlyn, and GE will either try and mind game or just go for the straight up push in mid. I'm kind of wondering how much experience they've got with this, because it is actually a difficult thing to do, because I take your minds back to Cloud9 versus Dignitas, Split 2 of the 2013 season, when Dignitas actually ran this composition of the Caitlyn Blitzcrank, stole both buffs from Meteos, and still lost the game, even though they had the very, very strong early game, because after those buffs are taken, and after you get the jungler and mid behind, the rotation game is actually incredibly difficult to get right, and we'll see whether GE can do that.
And, you know, just going on from that as well, Stress, I mentioned this before, that Blitzcrank offers very little appeal for the AD carry, and this is putting a lot of pressure on the AD for GE in teamfights, because if Caitlyn does not perform very well, if he positions even slightly out of position in teamfights, he's going to find himself dead. He's going to have to rely a lot on that 90 caliber net and the flash, because when you're against the Zed, when you're against Renekton, who can easily get to the back lines, plus an Elise as well, Caitlyn is going to be in real sticky situations. So I would not like to be the AD carry right now for GameEksta, I've got to be honest.
One thing I will note about this team setup is if they didn't have the Blitzcrank and had a Thresh, GE actually have an incredibly consistent, very strong team. So I'm wondering whether they just want to run Blitzcrank in the bottom lane, which would be kind of a confusing choice when Thresh is available. Obviously, Thresh as well does fairly well against Leona, so with it being open, it would have been a fairly standard pick, but I don't know. I'm looking forward to seeing whether GE are actually going to run this mid lane tactic.
Yeah, it is certainly possible, but whether it's going to actually come to fruition or not, we're going to find out very shortly. As you can see, there is no delay period because we are on the live tournament realm, and therefore we'll just be jumping right into the loading screen here, Stress. I think a lot of people, ourselves included, would expect Dark Passage to take this one fairly convincingly. I've casted quite a lot of the Turkish International Invitationals in the past on the On-Fest tournaments as well. I have never ever seen GameEksta. So for me, this is going to be a very interesting game to see how they perform against DP, who are considered the best Turkish team right now.
Yeah, that's a really good point. As you mentioned, DP have been around for quite a while now. When you look at the lineup of at least Holy Phoenix, Naru have been together for a while. So there's a couple of different little changes. I believe Fabulous used to be Fabulous, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, and it's that little bit of a change here on Tournament Realm, but keeping it in mind anyway. But yeah, Dark Passage, I think, are the favourites going into this, but GE did, of course, make it through their first game yesterday, so they've already had one win to get them here. We'll see whether they can do it again here against Dark Passage.
They did. That is a very fair point. This isn't the first round. This is the quarterfinals now. So as you say, GE have came through a best of three to get to this situation. And I'm just curious here if Triel, I'm not going to try and pronounce his full name because I know I'm going to butcher it, but Holy Thoth used to be the support player for DP. So I'm quite interested to see if that's the same guy or if they've actually subbed that one out. Because, I mean, I don't know about you, Stress, but my knowledge of the Turkish scene isn't exactly top-notch.
I must admit it's somewhat of a weakness in my knowledge, but what I will say is that when you spend most of the time on EU West, you kind of unfortunately have to give somewhere, and it, not being from Turkey, sadly my my experience with it isn't quite as good as I'd like. So GameEksta actually beat Over Gaming 2-1 yesterday, so that's who they beat to advance to this stage.
Okay, that's not a team that I actually know either. So
I think I casted Over Gaming about 3 or 4 weeks ago, somewhere off the top of my head, because I remember wanting to make the pun "It's game over" for Over Gaming.
Oh,
but never got to. I know. See, that's one thing about us casters that we have. With some teams and some games, we have jokes that we're looking for the time to use all the time, and sometimes it just doesn't work out. Nevertheless, I don't actually have any for this series yet, but I'm sure I'll think of one, because this is Dark Passage going up against GameEksta here in the quarterfinals of the Riot Turkey International Invitational.
Okay, so to answer my previous question that I threw out there about Holy Thoth, I just checked there on Wikipedia, and indeed he did leave actually at the end of last year, so around December, late December, early January time, and he was indeed replaced from Triel, and he actually went on to Atlas Esports, Stress, as well, so good luck to him in the future in his next team. But regardless, this is the first best of three that we're bringing here from Chaos TV. I believe there is another best of three coming up later on, and that's scheduled to start around 10 o'clock Turkish time. That's about 8 p.m. if you are from the UK on 9 p.m. Central European Time. And interestingly enough, even though there have been changes to trinkets, doesn't look like either team wants to play aggressive early on.
And one thing to note about that, especially with this Blitzcrank composition, is I feel like GE have to use their strengths in the very early game far more than they're doing here. I mean, the solo queue aspect of Blitzcrank at level 1 translates here. The fact that you land one hook and you pretty much win the level 1, you get a flash for free, 100%, or a kill. So it's one of those situations where if that hook lands, which of course you'll be taking first anyway, there's no reason not to be pressuring.
Exactly, yeah, and that's for me a bit surprising because I would have expected, especially with the Blitzcrank support, that you would want to delve into the opposition jungle and try and make some plays, or at least try and steal a buff. I think you were alluding to that in the picks and bans before, Stress, that this is really where Blitzcrank excels, like pulling a buff, stealing it, or at least delaying the opposition jungler by a few seconds.
Yeah, and then from there, remember that the jungle a little while back actually had the experience changed around in different places, so stealing a buff is catastrophic this early on. If you can force them to spend time away, it means that you either force them into a smite battle or force them to delay their second buff, and from there, that's why you take Blitzcrank Caitlyn. By the time they get to their second buff, you've pushed the middle lane to the point where their mid laner cannot get to a position to defend, and you can transition over for 3v1 at their buff and hold them at level 1. Top lane, Aatrox getting dropped very low, but it looks like GE are just going to run standard lanes here.
Yeah, Hyos taking a lot of damage. Grab comes out there from Therapist, but he is going to be backing on away. But however, Honos took a bunch of damage there as Caitlyn, and that's kind of in a nutshell what we were talking about before, that as soon as your hook goes out, you lose all pressure in lane, and you just saw that Holy Phoenix pounced on top of that as Lucian.
And this is probably one of the worst lanes, bar maybe Lucian Thresh, to lose lane pressure against. Leona will punish you every time you step out of position. Her Zenith Blade, of course, isn't interrupted by minions, so even if you step forward, it's not quite like Thresh, who has to have a clean hook. But Leona's going to punish any time that they try and trade here, and now the way that this lane is setting up, it's very difficult for GE to actually get that engage on Dark Passage because they can just sit behind minions. That's one of the things about Blitzcrank, is that's one way of just offsetting everything that he has.
Well, as you're talking about the bot lane, on the mirror's image there at top, that was Crystal spending a lot of time in the top bush and getting absolutely no reward because Fabulous pushed that lane very aggressively, so at least basically wasting some time. You do see Blitzcrank moving into position here, does land that grab in mid-air, and Holy Phoenix, who eats a couple of tower shots as well. Here comes Wukong from the side. It's not looking too good right now. First Blood should be going down. Question is, who's going to pick it up? And it will be Wukong taking down First Blood for GE.
That right there is Holy Phoenix playing too aggressively. He has to watch out for when the minion wave is getting low. Obviously, there's less to block for those hooks, and he just wasn't in the right position to defend against that. Even then, blowing both barrier and flash, it just used a lot there, and really, that's just a mistake that he shouldn't have been making.
Yeah, and it all happened while the grab came through halfway through Relentless Pursuit, so Lucian really, as you say, was kind of caught with his pants down, just being overly aggressive for the sake of doing so, and especially when you're against a Wukong that can just decoy out the bushes and suddenly be right next to you. That was very loose play, plus both summoners down as you mentioned, so it's a pretty precarious position to be in, because now if he gets caught from a grab, it's going to get really bad. Top lane, Fabulous here will be actually flashing away. Ignite has came down as well from Hios. Is he going to be going on for this kill? And one more auto attack will do it. 9 hit points Fabulous was on. And the question is this Q back up? Yes, it is. Eats a tower shot. Now Crystal's coming around from the side. Hyos is in all sorts of trouble. He is going to be jumping back on towards Crystal. Will be popping off that passive. Can Crystal take down this kill afterwards? Because Wukong is coming around from the side. They are looking for this kill and they'll pick it up as well.
And this is really nice play out of GE, punishing the mistakes from Dark Passage, and Dark Passage are far too confident in this game. They're pushing all of their lanes up as far as they can in that top and bottom, and really they're not watching out for Wukong. They're not giving him any respect from that jungle, and he is in the right place at the right time to punish these mistakes.
Yeah, just as you say, he's just popping up where he's required. Triel was looking for an engage on Caitlyn, but Blitzcrank there just to push her away and get Hono some more farm. So Other than the fact that some kills have gone down, the farm right now on the side of Dark Passage is actually pretty strong. They are winning out on every lane, so that's a bit of a consolation prize.
It is, and you can see now they're trying to get some work done in this bottom lane. Crystal has come down here, but he's already walked through a ward. They know he is around, so they're not going to go aggressive on that. But what this does buy is Dark Passage some time to get extra farm. You already commented about the lanes, but something that's kind of uncharacteristic in the Caitlyn-Lucian matchup is that Lucian typically will go even with Caitlyn, but Lucian's died and is still ahead on CS. That's just a byproduct of how much that Blitzcrank is starting to get zoned by Leona, and Caitlyn isn't able to get to a position to engage because of the way the lane is set up there, and that early damage that went down onto Honos.
Yeah, and a lot of the reason why Holy Phoenix isn't even further ahead is because obviously he was the recipient of that first blood. So he was back in the death chamber while things were happening. At top lane, Hyos and Fabulous are going at it again. That was Dominus actually popped there from Fabulous, and that's no longer in the ultimate available for him.
They also got the Massacre out of Aatrox, so that means he's not going to be able next time they trade to get that increased attack speed, which as Aatrox gets lower and lower, of course he gets extra percentage health regen. Under half his blood price, blood pact, will give him double lifesteal. So it's one of those things that attack speed is actually fairly necessary for an Aatrox if he's getting all-in, but obviously Dominus not being available is going to reduce Renekton's ability to all-in as well, so it's back and forth. But bottom lane, the hook is landed, not going to be able to carry on that one.
Yeah, they weren't able to secure the kill, but they did pop the flash from Leona, so that is a successful gank, I guess you could say, in those terms. However, Crystal is lurking in the shadows as Elise, so 6 players at bot lane. Only time's going to tell what's going to happen.
Oh, Blitzcrank's throwing out these hooks and they're just not quite landing, and it looks like this is going to kick off in bottom.
Cocoon into culling is going to be coming on with that 1-2 combo, but instantly Elise will be just getting herself out of dodge courtesy of the repel.
I'm still a little surprised that it's a Blitzcrank in this game, only because Thresh was available. And I'm going to say that a good few times this game, because unless they get this Blitzcrank working here, they're not utilizing Blitzcrank's strong laning phase, which isn't actually that strong. So when I say strong laning phase, I mean that's the strongest part of his game. But in comparison to a laner like Thresh, it is not strong at all.
Yeah, and the other thing as well, they picked Blitz before Leona was even locked in, so that's a very aggressive lock-in for GE to go for. And as you say, there were actually a bunch of supports that were available. You still had Annie available, Morgana was banned, but still, to go straight for the Blitz is a bit of a head-scratcher, but so far, it's not been paying off too badly for them, although the AD carry is slipping further and further behind on farm.
And I feel like that's something that shouldn't be happening right now. You see Leona's not even afraid to just walk up, take that knock-up from Blitzcrank, and then re-engage again. Zenith Blade didn't quite land, but Leona's quite close to 6 here. So next time that happens, if that knock-up is already down, then it's just looking for that grab. And the silence won't be enough, but mid lane looks like Naru going aggressive.
Naru has been caught from Cyclone. Here comes Return Fire though. Mega Inferno Bomb will be securing that kill. So both mid laners get in on the action, although Zed did fall down afterwards. So Exap's going to be able to get some more farm. Gets the double buffs as well, so that's going to be a nice little additional bit of power in his back pocket.
It looked like Naru was actually out of that engagement. He got engaged on a little bit earlier on and kind of was angling down towards River, decided to go back in. I think he used his ultimate to try and pick up the kill on Ziggs, but couldn't quite get it. Now, bottom lane, Leona is level 6, looking for that engage.
Will land the Solar Flare. They're going to focus on Blitzcrank actually with the Ignite as well. Culling lands a number of times. Going to be going in as well. The grab does get Holy Phoenix underneath the tower, but there's nowhere near enough follow-up damage to jump on top of that, and the Holy Phoenix will back on away. And we are already starting to see how Blitzcrank is scaling out of any kind of presence at bot lane.
I mean, you'd think that the mana barrier would be a really nice addition to that trading potential, but in the end of it, it's actually not that strong when you consider that it's just a little bit of extra health, which typically would be nice, but with Holy Phoenix so far ahead in lane, they've been able to get good damage down to harass Blitzcrank down anyway, so it's essentially just about a second and a half extra that he stays alive in a situation where Holy Phoenix and Leona are just out-trading completely.
They are, and you've already seen Wukong gank bot lane a number of times, and it's definitely one of the reasons why. Top lane, however, Aatrox and Renekton going at it once again. Passive has been popped there, so Bloodwell will not be available. Ios is going to try his best to survive this one, will be flashing away. However, the Dominus Stop Fabulous will secure that kill.
And that was really nice knowledge there, Fabulous. Nothing that's too big of a secret, but of course, while in the Bloodwell, you won't take aggro from the turret because you're not dealing any damage to your... as in, if you're standing with an AoE while Aatrox is in Bloodwell, you of course aren't doing damage, so don't take aggro. So Renekton was able to maximize the amount of time that he got the AoE from Dominus with the damage by standing in a position where he's, as he starts to chase, is going to be able to slice and dice alongside as well. However, bottom lane engagement.
Solar Flare comes down from Triel, but it's nowhere near enough to keep himself alive. The bait was successful from GE. However, Flash has been used from Wukong just to survive from the onslaught that Holy Phoenix was dishing out as Crystal Meth came in for the re-gank, trying to counter-gank that one away.
There's something that Dark Passage are doing in this game, which we commented earlier, and that's playing incredibly greedy. If you'd humor me for a second and look at Lucian's gold count, that would be really good, because they shouldn't be trading here.
Ooh.
Not when Caitlyn has a BF sword and Lucian is sitting on 3,000 gold. That's just aggressive, greedy laning out of Dark Passage, and really they should have backed off to buy before even thinking about trading.
And also, it was this greed that caused Holy Phoenix to die for First Blood.
Yeah.
And yet it doesn't seem to have faced him at all, Stress. He's just rinsing and repeating. And in fact, the rest of Dark Passage are just going to be going on Dragon. Mega Inferno Bomb flew in. Nice English there. But the Smite will steal away the Dragon anyway.
I mean, Holy Phoenix is ahead. There's no way of looking at that any differently, but it's needless. And actually, it's going to go for an Infinity Edge first on Lucian. That's something that we don't see all that often, typically, just because you want to maximize damage on the culling. Haven't seen too much of the Infinity Edge on Lucian, so I guess when this far ahead, it'll give him a fair amount of damage in this trading, and the way they're trading is actually kind of fine already. So just a different itemization on this one.
And theory crafting about the idea, as you said, normally you go Bloodthirster or Triforce first to, that's a bit of a mouthful actually, Triforce first, to try and maximize the culling damage, but going for that Infinity Edge suggests to me, Stress, that he just wants to trade, he wants to auto-attack, because he knows there's so little presence from the support of Blitzcrank that he can afford to do just that. Go in, poke with Piercing Light, get the double up, as well as passive, and ultimately just chunk Caitlyn down to a position where she can't even trade to get CS.
Yeah, I mean, that's what's been happening in that laning phase, even when Caitlyn had a BF sword and Lucian only had double Dorans. So, I mean, certainly Holy Phoenix is willing to trade so much in this game, and he's coming out ahead because of it, because as we commented, Blitzcrank just does not have the lane pressure once that hook is not available.
Yep, and again, Dark Passage are going to make the most of this. They're freezing the lane near their own tower, so this is forcing both Blitzcrank and Caitlyn to move past the river and go into dangerous territory. Unbeknownst to them, however, there's not going to be a gank coming down for a little while, but again, it's keeping them on their tiptoes.
Keeping them on their tiptoes, indeed. With Dragon not available as well, it just means that Dark Passage are just content to kind of sit in lane here. One tower apiece on the teams, and both of those have gone down in the top lane, so you can see Dark Passage just going to go aggressive in the bottom lane.
Yeah, culling again, Solar Flare on top of that. We're seeing all of the burst damage from Lucian, who picks up his second kill of the game, and Caitlyn goes back to Death Chamber. It was 50 CS difference before that happened. It's just going to go further and further in Lucian's favor.
There's nothing a Blitzcrank can do in that situation. Caitlyn got Zenith Bladed, then got locked down by Leona, and then there was even time in between that stun and the good stacking of the Solar Flare. They waited until the stun was about to expire, landed Solar Flare, picked up the kill. Blitzcrank just stood there and watched, because that's all he can do in that situation. A champion like Thresh, and I'm gonna say it again, has Hook, Flay, Box, Lantern. So much, but Naru's in trouble.
Naru has ate a bunch of damage, tries to get the death mark to duke out of all of it, but just delaying the inevitable, and Wukong picks up his 4th kill of the game. Now Fabulous has caught himself in a pretty sticky situation, will be slicing and dicing his way back towards his secondary mid-tower, but still, it's not necessarily great when your jungle has 4 kills, gotta say.
Not on a Wukong, I'd say. Like, he has a lot of utility, and when you take into account he'll do quite a bit of damage with Cyclone once he's got this itemization. From there's actually not that much that he can do. It's very similar, is he uses his ultimate, he knocks people up, maybe gets to the backline and takes down one, but then the rest of Dark Passage are kind of just there, and you don't have a lot as Wukong.
Especially when you consider that, let's hypothetically say that Wukong got 2 of these kills and gave 1 to Ziggs and 1 to Aatrox as well, like an additional couple kills to them. They'd be in a pretty strong position right about now, but stacking all of these kills on a Wukong, as you say, will just turn into pretty much an ultimating machine, isn't the greatest dispersal. And that, again, is probably going to start to shine through going into the 20-25 minute stage when you start looking at dragon fights.
That Infinity Edge has been finished on Lucian as well, so it means that if Lucian can kind of avoid the Cyclone, he should clean up most fights just by kind of standing at the side and auto-attacking. He has a fairly short auto-attack range, but you can see it's not really troubling them too much right now as they take down the turret, but now he's caught on the wrong side, forced to flash.
Yeah, Cyclone lands on top of his head as well, and he will be going down right here. Does try his best to put down some damage, but nowhere near enough, and again Wukong picks up the kill, so 5-1 now. They are trying to chase down the Leona, but in doing so, Fabulous, round from the backside, is just making a nuisance of himself. And in the whole time we've been talking, Stress, Zed pushing bot very aggressively.
I don't think there's much that Caitlyn can do about that either, because Zed still has his ultimate available. The rest of the team will push on towards his middle turret, which is good play, but there's the Caitlyn dying to the Zed ult, just as we were about to say it.
Yeah, man, it's just looking a bit brutal right now. GE, they're trying to make a go of this in mid, but in doing so, they're coming up against a brick wall right now that is Fabulous' dominus, and Zed is just pushing this bot lane. He's not really done a great deal of damage, but he's doing enough to force GE back to try and defend this this creep wave that's pushing.
Take a look at the items very quickly. Lucian's actually opting for a static shiv by the looks of it, which is an interesting second item for Lucian. This is a complete departure from the typical Bloodthirst Trinity Force, or even Blade of the Ruined King Trinity Force that we've seen from time to time. So a little bit interesting on this build. We'll see how it works out here for Holy Phoenix, but I mean, their team have got a lot of pressure here. They got themselves a slight lead, just over 1,500 gold, but they need to start taking a little bit more map control.
Yeah, and even though they do have find themselves 2 kills behind, it really doesn't matter, because not only are they getting quite a nice even dispersal of kills, but on top of that they are a tower up. They've also got the dragon, and they're looking for the second dragon now that has just respawned. They're going to take that one down as well. So in all the areas where it matters, Stress, they're ahead, and pretty comfortably so as well.
Exactly, and you look at, we've talked about the way that team fights go. Another point of Blitzcrank is his dragon control is very minimal. You really have to be given a mistake by Dark Passage to really get anywhere with Blitzcrank from here on out. We saw Holy Phoenix actually kind of get a bit greedy again on that middle tower. When the tower fell, he was angling away from the Mega Atomic Bomb, and because of it, got caught out, forced to flash, and ended up dying for it. So Holy Phoenix has been playing fairly greedy, and that's one thing that they may be able to capitalize on with this Blitzcrank. But the rest of the team for Dark Passage, although they're heavy stacked in AD, I think shouldn't be that greedy in this game. They should be able to stay ahead without giving too much away.
Yeah, one of my concerns though for Lucian as well, just going back onto Holy Phoenix, is he has no lifesteal, like 0. No Vampiric Scepter, he's not building towards, Bloodthirst or even Blade of the Ruined King, he's going flat damage, and in the long kind of trade-offs, if we do get to that situation, this can actually prove to be his demise. Typically, as an AD carry, you want a bit of lifesteal to keep yourself topped up in those team fights if you can manage to get yourself on the outskirts. And right now, he's not able to do so. So again, that's kind of a declaration for me that Dark Passage, they don't want to have these long drawn-out fights. They want to have it over in a few seconds.
Yeah, he's just running on that the lifesteal he's got for laning phase, which is just the 4% from runes.
Yeah.
So as you said, nothing too significant. It's, I mean, you can see it going up at like a small amount each attack, but it's nothing to write home about. But you're completely right with that. Is typically that's why you see Bloodthirster is it's good flat damage, it's good lifesteal. Just everything about it fits just about every AD carry perfectly. And if you don't build Bloodthirster first, you build Blade of the Rude King, as you said, and that's got lifesteal in it too. So interesting that we're seeing Holy Phoenix not go for it. That might punish him though if he does get hooked and can't get away, and is drawn into one of those kind of long fights. That might be a bit problematic.
It certainly could be, but that being said, they have a lot of champions on their side that are capable of bursting people down. You've got Zed, who, speaking of which, has found himself in a really sticky situation between Hyos and also Wukong. He's going to be falling actually to Aatrox with the assist courtesy of Caitlyn. I believe that was a trap because Caitlyn's in mid somewhere. But regardless, Zed has been caught again, and Naru has also been playing quite loose, I've got to say.
Renekton, well, yeah, that's something that Dark Passage are just doing all the time. Is they're just playing very greedy. They're pushing a lot. They're shoving up. I was going to say Renekton was shoving up in the top lane as well. And you know, Dark Passage are trying to cut corners in situations where they really shouldn't. They're not that far ahead in this game that that GE are out of it. And we've seen GE already capitalize on the mistakes. Holy Phoenix gets dropped low. Ace in the hole is going to shove him back. And that's going to be a turret falling to GE if they look to pressure it, but they're getting distracted here by Dark Passage.
They're getting distracted by the support, which is very interesting, because surely you'd want to go for that objective instead, and they're not even going to get the kill on the support. Leona did flash away there, and was deceptively tanky with that Giant's belt, so we'll live to fight for another day. Hyos has found himself fabulous, but will be darting across with the Dark Flight there, and they just regroup in mid once again.
Yeah, and Fabulous actually managed to hold the wave so far out there and chunk through half of it that now you're waiting on the next minion wave to come through. It's one of those things that GE could have used somebody like Wukong to maybe start tanking that turret up. And he's not the tankiest right now, but the fact that they had Lucian low, Zed was still dead, they knew they'd chased off Leona, and I believe Elise was in vision down in the bottom lane. It was just one of those situations where really if they really wanted to get that turret, they could have got it.
Yeah, or they could at least pressured it and took a big chunk out of it instead of chasing after the support that they ultimately didn't kill, although they did burn the flash, so I guess there's going to be no flash engages from Triel right now. You can see that Blitzcrank is taking point, Cocoon lands precisely on top of his head, and that will pretty much stop this engage in its tracks.
Dark Passage are being greedy again. They're going for that bottom lane tower. Naru actually will get that on his own. There's no reason that he won't. So I don't know why they've committed so much to that side of the map and have now split, because it just strikes me that I think GE probably could have just decided to go mid there, but I don't know. GE are getting dragged around the map by Dark Passage, and now it's GE that are split up.
It's this League of Legends chess kind of game again, where Dark Passage are putting GE in positions they don't want to be in, and they're not reacting fast enough. That's a flash also used from Wukong to escape the Zenith Blade, and now you can see Fabulous has been caught out of position. Hyos is going in deep right now. Dominus has been popped. Here's the Ace in the hole and Dark Flight as well. Fabulous is still alive, and Hyos has been completely baited into a situation he didn't want. Blitzcrank goes down, as he does actually secure that kill alongside Ziggs as well to pick up Fabulous. Naru is very low, but here comes Lucian from the backside. Can he clean this one up? Shut down from Leona of all players. And that is going to be a 3-for-1 trade in DP's favour.
The old Wukong trick was attempted there by Orspexer. Not going to work when you're on no health and Eclipse is about to pop from Leona, but Onos picks one up on the way out, but is not going to get dropped from it.
Oh, dearie me.
There's the importance of lifesteal, folks. Onos, Bloodthirster, stays alive. Lucian, no lifesteal. You can see he actually picks up a Vamp Scepter right after that fight.
There was a couple things there, though. That he, at least Flash cocooned, missed, on top of a minefield. Caitlyn finished her off. And then Holy Phoenix just went so aggressive and got barrier baited from Honos, who played that one pretty much to perfection. But again, it comes back to a phrase that I feel like we've repeated 1,000 times, but it's very apt. Just overzealous, just being greedy in situations, looking for kills, and as a result dying and losing a dragon to boot.
The problem is, half of the time, GE are just letting Dark Passage get away with it. So Dark Passage are kind of getting lulled into this false sense of security where they think they can do it all the time. And I don't know whether they've realized that GE are actually kind of just not intentionally letting them, but just kind of getting dragged around really easily. And it's not the fact that they're so far ahead.
Because the thing as well is that Dark Passage are only about 3.6k ahead, which is, significant, but it's not game-breaking. And if they keep doing these mistakes, eventually they're going to put themselves behind. Yes, they're ahead on towers by 3 towers, but that's only going to go so far when you look towards 40-45 minutes. So this is giving GA have to feel a bit of confidence right now.
Yeah, I have to agree with that. I wonder whether GE know how close this game is on the gold side of things. That's always an interesting question, is how good are a team at reading exactly the gold difference? Because it's fairly difficult to do. Hyos gets stunned down. There's the solar flare as well.
And the culling as well. Holy Phoenix is in the front lines, and he's going to get punished, getting knocked 6 feet under. That's the AD carry out of the fight. Honos is still on full HP. Can he clean this one up? He takes down Renekton. Now looking towards Crystal, who is trying his best to skitter away. And there's Zed from the backside. Ace in the hole comes out. Is enough burst damage to secure the AD carry kill and gets the shutdown. So 2-for-2 trade. That could have gone a hell of a lot worse for Dark Passage.
It could have. They were lucky there that they only really lost Holy Phoenix from that, because Naru managed to pick up on Hono stepping forward, and that's always a little bit of a dangerous thing to do as Caitlyn when you don't have barrier or flash available. But neither barrier nor flash available for Holy Phoenix meant he got blown up instantly in that fight, and it could have gone a lot worse for GE as well.
It certainly could. It's just a very strange game of League of Legends where these players are very good players. I mean, they're Diamond Challenger level. But yet, they're making mistakes that, for me, are very uncharacteristic. I've seen Holy Phoenix a lot as an AD carry, and he's always impressed me, but this game, he's been making some very strange, questionable decisions, like standing at the very front line after an engage goes down, because stressing that fight, they got the cocoon onto Aatrox, and then they went all in with the culling and solar flare, just catching on him. That's completely mitigating the rest of the team that wants to engage fully on you, like Wukong, for example. And Aatrox had Bloodwell available, so he just went into his passive anyway. So you've burnt 2 big ultimates for effectively a passive, and then you get re-engaged on. It's such a strange decision to me.
Especially when you consider that the Wukong is 5-2 and has the Black Cleaver,
Yeah.
or at least now has the Black Cleaver. I'm not sure exactly the time he picked that up, whether it was before or after. I think it was after the fight, actually. He's only just finished that one off, but nevertheless had a lot of damage at that point. And I'm thinking the other questionable thing that Holy Phoenix has done, and I'm sorry to be a broken record on this one, but Static Shiv Infinity Edge is so different from what we normally see, and there's a reason you don't see Static Shiv normally picked up on Lucian. It's because it's not necessary. Between Lucian's abilities already of Piercing Light, Ardent Blaze, you're able to push through a wave very, very quickly. And of course, don't forget the Light Slinger, the double shot passive. You're able to get through the wave very quickly. You get the Zeal from Trinity Force anyway. That actual the Lightning Bolt from Static Shiv doesn't give you that much damage extra when you consider the extra damage that you'd be getting from Trinity Force anyway. So one of those things that I really just think this is kind of not maximizing his damage in the right kind of areas that he would like it to be. And also he's delaying a Last Whisper.
I would certainly agree. Yeah, exactly. The Last Whisper is being delayed, and when you consider how much armor Aatrox is building up, he's got Ninja Tabi, Warden's Mail, and another Chain Vest, what I'm assuming may turn into either a GA or a Sunfire Cape. Lucian really needs that armor shred. Desperately needs it, and he's not got it so far. And the fact he's building towards a Blade of the Ruined King means he won't have that Last Whisper for at least another 5 to 10 minutes.
Yeah, that was something else I was going to pick up on, was the fact that he's built 2 incredibly expensive items, looking for Infinity Edge and Blade of the Ruined King. Alongside Trinity Force, they're 2 of some of the most expensive items in the game. Caitlyn has really optimized the build better and is at 3 finished items. Blitzcrank gets away from that one, forced to flash out though. The culling is not available for a team fight, which isn't the biggest thing right now, but when you consider that Caitlyn is on 3 completed items, if she stays safe, she's at this point, probably going to be doing more damage than Lucian is.
Oh yeah, I would definitely agree with that statement, especially when you consider the last Whisper is going to be chunking through. Now Baron was started off around the same time that Blitzcrank survived by flashing through. However, it's not going to be finished off. Both Triel and Crystal took quite a bit of punishment right there, so if GE want to, they can engage. However, look at bot lane, Naru is taking down this inhibitor tower.
Yeah, this was all buying time for Naru, but Dark Passage actually were looking to get Baron as well. I mean, if nothing else, it was just to buy this sort of time, and now they're looking to chase on as well. They're going to be careful that Holy Phoenix doesn't get too far forward on that, but that's an uncontested inhibitor going down, all from that pick.
And now you can start to see that GA coming down to try and pick up this kill. And while they do so with 3-4 plays now with Caitlyn recalling, surprise, surprise, that's going to be DP trying to pick up the Baron. So they're just completely outmaneuvering. Also, Zed's going to get himself 1 kill, very nearly 2 kills in that exchange. And again, this has brought up DP enough time to try and pick up this Baron. They're trying to force away Wukong right now, who will be flashing away. They take down the Baron courtesy of the smite from Elise. And now also Cyclone. Huge passage of play for Dark Passage. Flash then into Blade and also Shield of Daybreak will all land on Wukong, who's now been stunned out from Ruthless Predator courtesy of Fabulous, and they're chasing this one down. Culling's also been popped from Lucian, so that is going to be the final kill there in this small skirmish going to Dark Passage.
They did use a lot for that chase though. Solar Flare, Culling, a lot of abilities used. I think you even said, yeah, Leona Flash was used there as well, so that was a pretty desperate attempt to pick up Wukong. They could have maybe looked to have gone mid instead, but I think better being safe than sorry on this one. They're going to look to pressure down this turret, but they don't have any minions here, and there's the engage.
Yeah, Cocoon will land on Blitzcrank, which isn't ideal, but again, they have chunked that middle tower down pretty hard. And in the meanwhile as well, Stress, you know, Jeeve, they've got to remember, well, our bottom inhibitor is dead. So that's going to be Super Minions pushing. We have to keep an eye on that one.
Super Minions in the bottom lane typically is one of the worst things that can happen just because of the way that it opens up Baron, but with Baron gone, that kind of just means that it's buying time for them to take more inhibitor turrets, not just giving extra room to take Baron. So it's a matter of time now before Dark Passage take down that middle turret and start pressuring other lanes. You can see up in the top lane already Zed's up there, and they're going to use Zed to split push all day long because nobody can fight him really, unless it's Hyos with his passive available, which it is, but I still think Hyos probably can't fight him, and the other option is Ziggs, but then you're relying on having Zhonya's Hourglass available.
Yeah, and even then, you pop into Zoni's Hourglass, and Zed's probably going to murder you as soon as you come out of that. He's just so huge right now, and you can see that Exap wants no part of this. There will be Deathmark going on. Instant Zoni's Hourglass comes out from Exap, but then Zed once again trying to turn this one back around, flash in, and the ace in the hole courtesy of Caitlyn. It will be the Hex Drinker saving Naru's life, but that is going to be the Fountain securing the kill. However, this is buying up enough time for the rest of Dark Passage to push through mid. They have picked up the kill on the top planer of Aatrox. Grab comes in from Blitzcrank. That's going to signify his end, though. Double kill for Lucian.
The Super Minions are on the Nexus towers as well, so this is going to be pressure on towards his middle inhibitor turret. And I mean, Ziggs is the only one there really that can defend, and even then he's doing it with just a bomb every so often from range. It's a case that Caitlyn's stuck over here at the Nexus turrets to defend, so they're just hemorrhaging the rest of their base structures.
Yeah, objectives falling left, right, and center. This is going to be second inhibitor right now for Dark Passage. And that top tower's taken a little bit of a love tap. It's not going to be going down anytime soon. However, damage has well and truly been done. It's going to be a bunch of gold in the back pockets. Everybody over 1,000, 4,000 for Holy Phoenix. So that is going to be Blade of the Rune King, probably Last Whisper as well when he goes back to spawn.
Yeah, you have to imagine he will pick both of those up, but at this rate, it could be pretty much anything.
Who knows, maybe he's going to go
Genjo,
for Rabadon's death cap or something crazy. But that is going to be Darkfly coming in. Nice grab though from Blitzcrank. If they can take down Holy Phoenix, they got a chance of turning this one back around. Mega Infinite Bomb and Ace in the Hole both used to try and secure that kill, but Holy Phoenix manages to somehow survive by the skin of his teeth. He had about 100 HP remaining there.
Somehow survives, but Dark Passage is just being so greedy. Stop being greedy. You guys got 2 inhibitors. Back off. Go buy. And... oh dear. Grab doesn't quite land on that one, but again, why are Dark Passage trying to fight this? You guys are way ahead.
it doesn't make much sense to me. Naru is now going to come in a 1 versus 5 situation. He shuts down Caitlyn. He will get a double kill before falling himself. And this is buying up those super minions at bot lane to try and push the tower and maybe even the inhibitor as well, as that was already below 50% of its HP. And again, Dark Passage are going back in on this one with Holy Phoenix super low. He's getting chunked down by those mines. Exap's been caught out, however, from Leona. Here comes Blitzcrank from the side, trying to keep his mid laner alive just for a few more seconds. And in the meanwhile, they have to keep this inhibitor alive. However, it has fallen down. Ziggs will be dying as well to Leona, and they're going to try and push the Nexus towers.
I guess they're just going to brute force this, but I mean, there was a safer way to get this done, if I'm being honest. I mean, they really didn't need to brute force it, but I guess a win is a win here for Dark Passage. Doesn't have to be clean. Let's just make sure they pick it up, I guess.
Yeah, Blitzcrank is doing what he can to stave off the Dark Passage team, but Ace in the Hole comes out, blocked away from Fabulous. Here comes Wukong, no, last ditch effort, double kill for him, looking for that triple on Fabulous, who is super tanky. In the meanwhile, they need to be careful. Those super minions will make short work of the Nexus, but Blitzcrank is standing there, and we'll stop this one for a few more moments. Now that Holy Phoenix has gone back to spawn, well, we were wrong. Blade of the Rune King and Black Cleaver, because why not?
I was gonna say, I mean, I guess it's Armor Shred at the same time. I'm actually surprised it wasn't like a Zephyr or something like that at this rate. But I mean, I kind of, well, I feel like Dark Passage really should have just closed that game out there. If I'm being honest, I mean, if they'd have gone back to base and bought, they had themselves an easy push in for a win, as this extra itemization will really just allow them to do that anyway. So it's a matter of time now before Dark Passage decide to group. Baron is up in 1 minute 20, so I mean, that is pretty much an uncontestable objective. If you're GE, you really can't look to go aggressive around Baron because you've got 2 inhibitors down.
Exactly. If you go to Baron, it's easy for DP to just stall it and allow the super minions to push the Nexus, and without any Nexus towers, it becomes a very real game-ending threat. Plus, on top of that, at this stage of the game, if someone is to die, they're going to be dead for a good 40 or so seconds, and again, that's going to be enough time for DP to just push right down the middle and end the game. So, it's looking pretty precarious for G, gotta say.
It is. It's yeah, precarious indeed. But this is Dark Passage, of course. They are probably the top-rated team in Turkey when you when you look at things. So, I mean, we were talking about it that GameEksta were somewhat underdogs coming in here, but Holy Phoenix gets
he gets chunked by 3 ultimates there on top of one another, and without Holy Phoenix for 55 seconds. That is pretty much going to put a break on the pedal, I would assume, for Dark Passage. They can't really afford to go in here because that's a big chunk of their damage off the cards. And again, Holy Phoenix, too aggressive, gets caught and gets punished.
It's just needless, to be honest. I mean, at this stage, Dark Passage are so far ahead that they can just close out the game whenever they want to. But now they relinquish a lot of the Baron control that they had. They relinquish the chance of ending the game right now. And GE are actually getting to a stage where Blitzcrank will become useful again, because you get to a point where one pick is incredibly good because of the length of the death timers. So even though Blitzcrank won't offer too much in team fights, if you split your opponents up and you get 1 kill, then like this, it puts the brakes on. Blitzcrank is now relevant again in this game.
And if, in hypotheticals, a grab turned into a clean ace for GE where they lose like 0 or maybe 1 players, they could actually try and push down mid, or they could secure a Baron and then try and, you know, keep themselves alive a bit longer. So even though it's almost Mount Everest to climb for them, it is possible. And if Dark Passage keep giving away these free opportunities, eventually GE are going to pick one up. That being said, Baron has been started, and as you said, it's completely uncontestable from G, so that is going to be Baron going into the hands of DP.
I mean, luckily, Dark Passage have warded up that topside jungle as well, so they know that it's uncontestable and that GE aren't pushing in. Of course, they've also got the vision of minions pushing into the base as well, but at least they know there's nobody anywhere near, so there's no chance of it getting stolen away.
Well, that is going to be Dark Passage. They got, again, this 1-4-0 formation with Noru atop the rest of the team in mid. Inhibitors have respawned, but for how long is the question right now. Holy Phoenix, he needs to play a bit more passive, and you can see this all-in engaged right now from GE. Forces the flash from Holy Phoenix, who is going to be culling from the side. Kios is running right at his face. There's a solar flare as well on top of him, and that will be him in the blood well. However, Honos from the backside, is he able to secure some kills? Is he able to turn this one back around? As I'm speaking, Elise gets a double kill. That's going to be Zen pushing the Nexus as well. He's going to be backdooring this one, and this actually should be GG, unless Ziggs can pull off some masterful play. In fact, he's going to probably fall down for his troubles going into that Zony's Hourglass. And game number 1 will finally be going to Dark Passage, but it could have been over about 10-15 minutes ago, Stress.
It was not a clean game by any stretch of the imagination, as Dark Passage kind of getting a bit greedy at time to time, but that is only game 1 of our best of 3, so it means we do have another game to look forward to very shortly.
Yep, we do have the second lobby coming up very shortly, guys, so we're going to quickly jump into a short break, refresh ourselves, and by all means do so yourselves as well. We'll be back in just a couple of minutes for game number 2 between Dark Passage and a GameEksta. See you very shortly.